Counting on Putin and his war machine. Putin's war machine. Putin's war. Putin's aggression. Putin and his war machine. Inflict further pain on Putin. Of Putin's war.
So here in the United States, we have, 50,000 people who die every year because of medical issues and they don't have health care. We have veterans who sleep out on the streets. We have homeless people. We have people who can't go to college. We have lead infesting the water pipes of, countless neighborhoods and cities, failing infrastructure. To say the least, we have a lot of problems here in the United States. The people of this country are suffering. But you know what? Why not give Ukraine another, $15-16 billion immediately?
And if we do not respond to Putin's assault on global peace and stability today, the cost of freedom and to the American people will be even greater tomorrow. So we're going to continue to support the brave Ukrainian people as they fight for their country. And I call on Congress to pass the $12 billion Ukraine assistance package that I have asked them for of late. Ukrainian people are demonstrating by their physical courage that they are not about to just let Putin take what he wants. That's clear. They'll defend their freedom, their democracy, their lives. And we're going to keep providing security assistance, economic assistance, and humanitarian assistance. We're going to support them against tyranny, oppression, violent acts of subjugation. People everywhere, and I think it's maybe even surprised some of you all, people everywhere are speaking up for freedom. When the history of this war is written, Putin's war on Ukraine will have left Russia weaker.
This is about freedom.
And the rest of the world stronger. May God bless all those heroes in Ukraine.
So Ukraine aid package grows to $14 billion as Congress rushes legislation tied to Russia's invasion. This is from yesterday. This is from the Washington Post. So I jumped around a little bit in this article. Meanwhile, lawmakers continue to put the finishing touches on a package of humanitarian, military, and economic assistance for Ukraine. Lawmakers look to append about $14 billion in aid to a long-term plan to fund the U.S. government, a measure that Congress must adopt before midnight Friday, or risk a federal shutdown that could hamstring Washington at home and abroad. So this $15 billion they want to pump into Ukraine and, basically to saber rattle with a nuclear power and use Ukrainians as cannon fodder, they're going to attach it to a must-pass bill, so it's just going to have to get passed. The frenzy of legislative activity reflected Washington's delicate, difficult geopolitical position as the U.S. government looks to bolster Ukraine and other regional allies against Russian aggression without provoking a direct conflict with a fellow nuclear superpower. So far, the Biden administration has joined with allies around the world in issuing crippling sanctions and other financial penalties, hoping that historic economic pressure might force Putin to negotiate an end to the war. The only reason Washington would be in this difficult geopolitical position is because of their own actions. The only reason we're, in threat of having a nuclear war or having a conflict at all with a fellow superpower, a fellow nuclear superpower, is because of decades of NATO expansion, decades of economic imperialism by the United States imposed onto Europe, as well as a long list of diplomatic warfare, including coups d'etats and overthrows of governments. So the United States, puts its dick in a bear trap and then is like, oh, this is a delicate situation we're navigating here. And then, bro, you put your dick in a bear trap. And then the other thing is they're saying, we need to give Ukraine all this money and we're going to do all these crazy sanctions on Russia in a hope that, that they'll just come to the table and negotiate and do diplomacy and we can put an end to this war. The war could end instantly if Ukraine, Zelensky agrees to be a neutral government and not to do NATO expansion. If the U.S. would just do that, the war would be over. Like what we need to do is we need to meet the Russian demands because they're not ridiculous. They're very reasonable. And then the war's over. But they're going to act like all this other shit that they're doing, and everything and anything but is what they're doing to try and get Putin to the negotiation table. Meanwhile, he's been sitting at it for 8 years. It's been what? 8 years? 8 years since the Minsk Accords, the Minsk Agreement. So for 8 years, Russia acted in restraint as the West and the Ukrainian government broke the Minsk Agreement and continued to shell and sniper the Donbass region. And he's still willing to negotiate. It's the West that is unwilling and unreasonable. And it's also the aggressor. I know that sounds crazy when someone, Russia has just invaded another country, but there's context and there's history that must be understood to even have a basic understanding of the situation. Along with punishing Russia, lawmakers this week readied nearly $14 billion in assistance for Ukraine. The money is expected to boost key programs at the Pentagon, State Department, and other agencies so that they can better deliver military assistance, help defend against cyber attacks, respond to food insecurity in the region, and shore up other NATO allies in the face of any other Russian aggression. Anytime the Pentagon and the State Department is getting more monies to do things, it's bad. It's going to be bad. So they can deliver military assistance, which means pump more weapons into Ukraine, which means more death for Ukrainian people. Help defend against cyber attacks. I would assume that's, more cyber attacks against Russian and Eastern Ukraine, and as well as, boosting their cybersecurity some fashion. Food insecurity. This sounds like typical Trojan horse programs of direct overt assistance and more covert assistance, more statecraft type things. But yeah, this is a typical $14 billion down the drain for imperialism and, military adventurism and geopolitical chess playing at the expense of the treasure of the American people and the lives of the Ukrainian people. The sum has grown steadily in recent days from the initial $10 billion endorsed by the Biden administration last week. Lawmakers wedded it to a broader must-pass package to fund the U.S. government, a strategy meant to cut down the sort of last-minute political bickering that pushed Washington to the brink of shutdown repeatedly over the past year. So, things like throwing money away to Ukraine, that steadily increases by billions as weeks go on without anyone asking for it. The president asked for $10 billion. It's now up to almost $15 billion. And they'll push this into a must-pass bill, but they won't give you health care during a pandemic. And they want you to believe this is because they care about people in Ukraine and freedom and democracy. It's the year 2022. If you honestly think the United States is doing anything anywhere else in the world for freedom and democracy, I don't know. That's like a kid believing in Santa. That's like, I got a bridge to sell you, bro. That's all I can say about that. NBC News has a little more details on this. So congressional leaders reach government funding deal with almost $14 billion in Ukraine aid, right? House and Senate appropriators struck a bipartisan deal early Wednesday on a massive bill to fund the federal government through September and provide nearly $14 billion in aid for Ukraine. The House is expected to vote on the $1.5 trillion package Wednesday with a possible vote in the Senate by the end of the week. The bipartisan agreement is a culmination of months of negotiations on Capitol Hill that resulted in a prolonged stalemate between Democrats and Republicans. The nearly $13.6 billion devoted to Ukraine includes $6.5 billion for the Defense Department, with $3.5 billion to replenish equipment sent to Ukraine and $3 billion for U.S. troops who are helping to defend NATO in Europe. The bill would also provide money for humanitarian aid to support Ukraine's energy grid and to combat disinformation. So that's a lot of money getting pumped into Ukraine overnight, which means there's a lot of money for the contractors attached to these bills to make. This is what this really is. This is what it always really is. There's, the outward goals of, saber rattling and countering Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, etc. But there's always the inward goal of the empire, which is money making, which is the same as the outward goal, but the inward goal is almost a little more corrosive, like a cancer, right? It eats away at what already exists within the empire. So they want to, $6.5 billion for the Defense Department, $3.5 billion to replenish equipment. The weapons contractors are real happy with that. Money for humanitarian aid. I'm sure some of that is State Department / CIA intelligence agencies doing their good work. And I'm sure the other part of it is some, person making a ton of money on some end there. It's like the fat preachers who have those channels of the starving African kids, these very well-fed white European people sitting in a village in Africa surrounded by starving black people. And somehow they want me to trust them and give them money. That's what this reminds me of. The bill would also allocate $15.6 billion for the COVID pandemic response domestically and abroad. The money would help the U.S. address future variants and secure more treatments and vaccines. It would also aid in the international fight against the disease by providing supplies and mitigation measures. So once again, they're attaching crucial coronavirus funds to this $15 billion boondoggle that they want to pump into Ukraine. The legislation, which funds the government through the rest of 2022 fiscal year, would provide increases to both defense and non-defense spending for domestic programs over 2020 levels. So the Pentagon's getting even more money. House Appropriations Committee Chairwoman Rosa DeLauro, a Democrat from Connecticut, said in a statement early Wednesday that the measure would lower the cost of living for Americans and create American jobs. Oh, God. During this time of great uncertainty and change, we're tackling some of our nation's biggest challenges, including making healthcare more affordable, confronting the climate crisis, and protecting our national security, she said. So that's why I included this. She's talking about the overall $1.5 trillion bill with this $15 billion Ukraine package that's attached to it. And she's saying the bill is going to make healthcare more affordable. It's going to help us confront the climate crisis, and it's going to protect our national security. Well, confront the climate crisis. This whole Ukraine debacle has Joe Biden begging the oil industry to do more drilling on federal land, and I did a video about that. And protecting our national security, how is marching us closer and closer to nuclear war doing anything to keep us safer or secure? And the making healthcare more affordable, that's the most laughable thing I've ever heard. That's what they say for the past 20 years. If they gave a shit about you, they would have given you Medicare for all decades ago, because every other major country already has it and no one is getting rid of it. And if they cared about you at all, they definitely would have done it over the past couple of years during a pandemic when everyone thought it was the deadliest thing in the world. They still didn't give you healthcare. They don't care about your health. Okay? This is all about making money. Senator Richard Shelby, a Republican, ranking member. This is a Republican from Alabama, ranking member on the Senate Appropriations Committee, said in a statement that the bill excludes partisan poison pills and highlighted the boost to defense spending. It also provides critically needed emergency assistance for our allies that are resisting Russian aggression in Ukraine without decreasing base spending funding by a single dollar. So the Republicans are happy. The Democrats are happy. The Republicans are happy because, we're giving our money. We're tough guys defending against Russian aggression, right? Meanwhile, this is clearly Western aggression, Western imperialism that has brought us to this point. Democratic and Republican lawmakers have been eager to send billions of dollars in military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine as Washington and the European Union continue to punish Russian President Vladimir Putin and his allies with crippling sanctions. Of course, Democratic and Republican lawmakers have been eager to send billions in military and humanitarian aid because their donors stand to make billions even more. You know, that this is all about the profit. This is all about the profit. Like, think about what Cheney did in Iraq and just expand on that. Weapons contractors are getting money, construction companies are getting money, uniform people are getting money, bullet people are getting money, gun people are getting money. There's a lot of money to be made here, people. The Biden administration initially asked for a $6.4 billion in emergency funding for Ukraine, which Russia invaded on February 24th. Last week, the White House requested a $10 billion package that would pay for humanitarian security and economic assistance for Ukraine and Central European allies, quote, due to Russia's unjustified and unprovoked invasion. Isn't that the biggest crock of shit you ever heard? I would say it is unjustified. I don't think war is ever justified unless it's a defensive action. You know, someone is making war upon you and you must survive. But this is not unprovoked. This is the trap we set for Russia. This is the corner we pushed them into. And we've been talking about it for decades, and now it's finally happened. This bill, the spending bill, comes as a consequential moment, said Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on Tuesday. War in Europe has focused the energies of Congress into getting something done and getting it done fast, quickly. So nothing gets Congress into action faster than war, because their donors make so much fucking money off of it. This article also had a picture of Mitch McConnell at the top. So you're welcome. There's the turtle. So let's listen to Joe Biden again after we've thought about how, you know, for decades, he has helped push this aggression of U.S. imperialism and help create the situation in Ukraine. And now he wants to take our money that we could be using to, you know, help people in our own country figure out some of our problems. He's going to be using it to pour gasoline on a fire. That's what he wants to do.
And if we do not respond to Putin's assault on global peace and stability today, the cost of freedom and to the American people will be even greater tomorrow. So we're going to continue to support the brave Ukrainian people as they fight for their country. And I call on Congress to pass the $12 billion Ukraine assistance package that I have asked them for of late. Ukrainian people are demonstrating by their physical courage that they are not about to just let Putin take what he wants. That's clear. They'll defend their freedom.
It was 12 billion when it was 6 billion, it was 4 billion, it was 12 billion, now it's 14 billion. Jesus Christ.
Their democracy, their lives. And we're going to keep providing security assistance, economic assistance, and humanitarian assistance. We're going to support them against tyranny, oppression, violent acts of subjugation. People everywhere, and I think it's maybe even surprised some of you all, people everywhere are speaking up for freedom. When the history of this war is written, Putin's war on Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. May God bless all those heroes in Ukraine.
Oh, God. So there you have it. Another, $15 billion for Ukraine. More gasoline on the fire. The United States is not doing anything to move us anywhere closer to peace. The best thing we could do right now to end suffering and make the world a safer place would be to not be arming Ukraine, to be withdrawing any kind of military shipments and support to Ukraine, and to be going directly to the negotiation table with Russia and promising that we are no longer looking to expand NATO, that we are no longer looking to park nuclear dual-purpose missiles, within a couple of dozen miles of their border, and, we will draw back from Ukraine. That's how we could end this conflict. That's how we could save lives. That's how we could stop using Ukrainian people as cannon fodder. That's also how we could stop, arming Nazis, because that's also what we're doing. We're arming literal Nazis who do horrible things, who kill people, who murder people, who torture people, who crucify people. I've seen accusations of child soldiering, all kinds of crazy shit. That's who we're supporting. And and the pattern stays true the world over. We will support the craziest people in the room if that economically or militarily benefits us. Like we supported the jihadists in Syria. We labeled them quote unquote moderate rebels. In reality, they were jihadists allied and in some cases the very same people who attacked us on 9/11. So think long and hard about either party being the lesser of two evils. This is a bipartisan consensus. I'm more of a left-wing person, so of course I'm thinking from that perspective, and I'm, in my mind, criticizing the people who voted for Joe Biden out of a lesser evil, right? They think they're doing harm reduction, but all they're doing is ensuring harm by ensuring the continuance of a belligerent empire that's lashing out in any and every direction, militarily, diplomatically, economically, to try and keep a stranglehold over the world that it just is not going to last. And the reason it's not going to last is because of the decisions made by our elites in the past and in the present. They continue to make bad, aggressive decisions. They continue to spend bajillions of dollars on our defense budget and spend almost no money at home. Flint, Michigan still has lead pipes, and here we are sending another $15 billion to Ukraine to continue a war where we're arming literal Nazis and using Ukrainian people as cannon fodder just to fuck with Russia.
Dylan! You son of a bitch! What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?
Because I spit hot fire